It's been a fact of history that we have tried many times to understand God's ways, to explain what God does and why he does it, and it has not been successful. So we have come to the conclusion that we cannot figure out God's ways, and we're not really meant to. But our wisdom consists not of figuring out why, but of finding the message and the instruction and the direction that we need to go in response to these things that we don't understand. So let's first take a look at what is happening. We live in a time of great technological advances. We live in a time where we believe almost blindly, almost religiously, in the powers of science and scientists and experts, doctors. And yet, out of nowhere, we are suddenly finding ourselves without a solution, without a clue. We don't know what we're dealing with. We don't know how to respond. We don't know how to control it. We don't even know what it is. We're still just now finding out what it is we're dealing with. What we do know is that it's a tiny microorganism. It's a mashehu, which means it's not even visible to the eye. And yet, it is bringing the world to its knees, so to speak. So what are we seeing? We are seeing that just as always, maybe even a little more, today we depend only on God, not on our own abilities, not on our own talents, not on our own wisdom. It's a humbling effect. And it's very good for the soul to be reminded that we have not mastered the universe. We have not conquered nature. We still have a long way to go for that. It's very interesting that it is happening during the Purim and Pesach season. Because in the laws of Pesach, we have to clean our homes and certainly our diets to get rid of every trace of leaven, every trace of bread, every trace of chametz. Even the mashehu, even that which we cannot see with the eye. We have to get it out of our possession, and we certainly can't allow it in our food. Now, you might expect that this would make us paranoid. How can a person who truly wants to fulfill this mitzvah or avoid this sin, how can you ever be confident that you have gotten rid of every trace, every minuscule amount of chametz in your house? So the Torah tells us, the first Mishnah on the laws of Pesach, the Torah tells us that if you've searched a room to make sure that there is no chametz in the room, no crumbs that are leaven, and the room is now clean, you turn your back to go and check another room, do you now become suspicious that maybe a cat or a mouse dragged a little piece of chametz into the room you just finished checking? And therefore you should go back and check again. Do we harbor that suspicion? And the Mishnah says emphatically, we do not suspect. Why? Because if you're going to suspect that after cleaning the room and checking the room, some animal might have brought a piece of chametz, a crumb of chametz into the room, then even if you check the room and the rooms around it so that there is no chametz anywhere in the house, you still have to have the suspicion of an animal bringing some chametz in from the courtyard. And if you check the courtyard, you have the suspicion that maybe it came from a neighbor's yard. And if the neighbor's yard is clean of chametz, then maybe it came from a different town. Maybe it came from across the ocean. It just got off a boat. There's no end to it. And therefore, we do not suspect. But what's really interesting is that in addition to telling us that you don't have to check a room more than once the night before Pesach, that's a halachic instruction, the Mishnah incidentally also tells us something else. Because the Mishnah could have said, after checking a room and finding it clean of chametz, you don't have to check it again to make sure that an animal didn't drag any chametz into the room. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say you don't have to check it again. It says we do not suspect. So it's telling us not only don't you have to check it again, you shouldn't even harbor that suspicion. Don't be paranoid about it. It is somewhat beyond our control. If you're talking about that tiny amount of chametz, can we really ever be sure? So the Torah is saying, all you need to do is check to the best of your ability by the light of a candle to make sure that there is no chametz. If you did that, you have satisfied your obligation, and you can trust in God that the house will be chametz free. So there are certain suspicions that not only don't we act on it, we don't even entertain it. And that's because we know that we are in God's hands, like this post online that says, wash your hands and remember whose hands you're in. So we know that we're in God's hands and that everything that's happening is happening for the good. Although it's disguised, but we know without a doubt that it is for the good and that the world will be much better off when this thing has done its job. Now, there are people who actually say, and these are people who know, who are knowledgeable, and yet they make this little mistake. They say, why would God allow such a virus? Why would God allow such a pandemic? Why would he allow it? What is that suggesting? Why would God allow? It's as if some things happen and God intervenes, but then there are other things that happen and God doesn't intervene. That really is not kosher. Nothing happens and God has to decide whether he should intervene. Nothing happens unless God makes it happen. So the expression, God allows it, is kind of fudging the issue. Everything that happens for a divine purpose and a divine reason. Otherwise, it cannot happen. So it's not like the laws of nature do whatever they do, and God has to decide when to interfere. Baal Shem Tov told us, when a leaf falling off a tree is carried from one side of the street to another by the wind, It is only because God decreed that that leaf should be taken from point A to point B, where it will do something significant in God's vast eternal plan. So it's not that God allows leaves to be blown from one side of the street to another. He determines exactly which leaf goes exactly where. So nothing happens by coincidence, nothing happens by statistic. Everything we're going to experience is going to be divinely orchestrated for our benefit. That's the comforting thought that has helped us outlive every nation in ancient days. And it's what allows us to be productive, constructive, and full of life, even when there might be reason to panic and give up or become actually destructive. Let's take another look. What exactly is happening? Whether it's physically justified or not, the world is shutting down all its practices. Schools are closed. Travel is restricted. Bars, restaurants, theaters, the things that we have come to depend on in our daily lives, what is our schedule made of? We go here, we go there, we do a little of this and we do a little of that, and then we come home and we've had it. We're done for the day. All of a sudden, without anyone saying a word, no theater, no partying, no traveling, no going anywhere. Now what? Well, first of all our habits have now been canceled. We have been freed and liberated from our Mitzrayim. We are so caught up in these things that we actually started to believe that that's what life is about. Life is about going to school, going to work, going to parties, going to a theater, going for some entertainment, going for some shopping. That's life. Now we're seeing it's not. It's not. We have to stay home. We have to be ensconced in our families, in our places where we live, and we gotta just rediscover life. This is a very good thing. The break of habits that this virus is bringing is such a fantastic opportunity to change the habits we've been trying or hoping to change, planning to change for years. But, an hour goes by, a week goes by, a month goes by, and you haven't changed it. Now we have the perfect opportunity. Everything is changing anyway. We are so liberated from our habitual routines and schedules that we can think clearly. We can now have the life we choose. This is a fantastic opportunity. We are encouraged by events to rethink where we put our energies. What are we living for? What are we getting up in the morning for? The world is going to be a much better place as soon as this thing is over. That is really a pre-Pesach message. Every generation has to come out of its Mitzrayim, out of its enslavement, And what we're seeing now is, like in the days of Egypt, Jews were pushed out of Mitzrayim. Here we're being pushed out of our habits. We're not asked, we didn't volunteer, it's being done for us. That's like Pare chasing the Jews out of Egypt. So if we take advantage, if we keep our heads and we see the opportunities, by Pesach time, we can have a much healthier life, a much healthier planet. All assumptions can now be questioned. All habits can now be challenged. All fears can now be dismissed. Were we worried about China? Were we worried about Iran? Were we worried about the price of oil? Boy, we're getting sobered up. Everything is changing, and it is changing for the better. For the better. So everyone needs to look around just in their own life. Stop listening to all the predictions being made. And in your own life, take advantage. Take advantage of this resetting of our reality. It's a good thing. Not scary at all. Exciting. There's another thing we should think about. We've gotten very comfortable with the idea that affection, closeness, intimacy is all physical. That you show affection, people are always asking, should a husband and wife show affection, physical affection, to each other in front of the children? Traditionally, of course, we don't do that. What is the wisdom behind that behavior, that habit? We want to show children that closeness, love, affection are not physical activities. It's become reduced to the most physical, and it's frustrating because it's not the real thing. So, in a way, what we're going through in this self-imposed or necessary isolation or quarantine, it's almost like, according to the laws of marriage, husband and wife can be physically intimate for 2 weeks out of the month, but physically separated for 2 weeks out of the month, when they have to find other ways of being close, of showing affection. It reinforces everything we've always been taught. It is, as we now know, really important to find ways of being friendly, of being helpful, of being close, of showing love without touching, without even getting physically close. This is a great improvement. This is a whole new talent that we have neglected for the longest time. And now we got to do it. So, 2 things. When there's a danger, when there's confusion, when there's panic, that's when all our good instincts become necessary and can be put to good use. People are being very considerate, very thoughtful, very concerned for others. We have to. So people are self-quarantining because they don't want to infect others. the generosity, the kindness, the sensitivity, the empathy that people are showing and feeling and expressing is really impressive. It is really, really nice. So it's bringing out the good in us, the noble, the godly, without anyone preaching it. It's just happening naturally. Our petty needs are suddenly becoming embarrassing. The things we used to get upset about, we just can't get upset about those things anymore. Too petty. We are sobered, and we are maturing as a human race. That is a beautiful thing. Now, physically, health-wise, it seems like this virus has a short life. I don't know whether it's weeks, months, but it's a short life. And it will pass, no question about it. Will we find the proper medication, vaccination, immunization? Whether we do or not, this is going to pass. And we're going to find ourselves in a cleaner, healthier, more noble world. Politically, geographically, financially, and personally. So now is the time to think not of ourselves, but of others, not of our physical health, but of our moral health. And we have to come to this really urgent conclusion. Anything that threatens health or threatens life must be combated with more health and more life, not with fear. If something undermines what life is meant to be, then we become more determined to make life what it is meant to be. In other words, we fight illness with health, not antibiotic. More health. More health means more life. More life means more goodness. More goodness means more like the world God envisioned. So we are becoming more godly. We've always meant to be. We were intending to be. We had plans to be, but it was taking too long. This is giving us a real boost. Got to get it done. We have to become more alive, more determined, more enthusiastic about our mission and our purpose and what it is that this illness or this virus is meant to produce. Because without a question, it's meant to bring goodness. But we are partners with God in creation, and so the goodness has to come through us, by us, from us. So we'll stop and think, what is God trying to tell us? It's not a warning, it's not a punishment, it's not doomsday, it's an opportunity. You know, sometimes when you're getting a little sluggish, something comes along and lights a fire under you so that you do what you're meant to do and what you really want to do, but haven't been getting around to it. So now we're going to get around to it. We're going to do mitzvahs we've never done before because we're going to have more time. We're going to be home. We're going to become better mothers, better fathers, better husbands, and better wives because we have no choice. Got no place to go. You can't run and you can't hide. So we have no choice but to become better, stronger in all the right things. And without a doubt, I have absolutely no doubt, by the time Pesach is over, we will have a much better world than it was a week ago. One of the things we should do in our spare time, now that we have spare time, is to learn the daily parsha of the Chumash with Rashi commentary. Every day, its portion. There are 7 portions, 7 days to the week. We read the section of the parsha for that day with the Rashi. It is life-giving. It's life-giving. Then you say the Tehillim for that day, which cannot say enough about the power of Tehillim. Not because it's a time of danger or no, because Tehillim is so powerfully holy that it shoots adrenaline through your spiritual veins and brings you alive. And for those of you who know how to study Tanya, there's the daily section of the Tanya. If you have these 3 life-giving Torah inspirations, you will be fully alive. The little things are not going to bother you. You're going to elevate your life to a much more noble condition. And with you, you're going to raise the family, the atmosphere at home, the people around you. When you do make phone calls, because we're going to have to do that, or text each other because we can't go over there. So you're going to have what to share. You're going to have some wisdom to talk about, something holy, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. Are there any questions that we can respond to?
Yeah, we didn't invite for questions, but we're inviting questions now. If you can figure out how to raise your hand on the Zoom app. Oh, somebody just raised their hand, and if I can allow you to talk, I'm going to allow you to talk, and the mic is going to be yours. So Mushka, hold on one second. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. This was really inspiring, and I appreciate the reset button.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
How to stay zen, but I guess I'll learn the chitas and hopefully I'll share it with the kids.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Does anybody else? Probably another 10 minutes.
Okay, so if there are no more questions.
A second, I'm gonna check now on Facebook. We have a lot of people watching on Facebook. Let's check it out. If people want to text me the questions, they can. How can we avoid, Rabbi Friedman, how can we avoid our worries about our family when we are far away in another country?
Well, you don't avoid, you actually make yourself useful. If there's a concern, and especially if it's a actual factual concern, then you got to do something, not avoid. Call, encourage, share something, breathe life into life. Don't ignore it, don't run away from it, certainly don't panic. So if there is somebody who needs a little attention or needs a little encouragement and a little boost, well, provide it. Provide it. So let me end with this thought from the Megillah. Under the circumstances that we find ourselves in, it is rather obvious that we all can make a huge difference in the lives of other people. Those who actually need medical attention, certainly we can make a difference in their lives. Those who need encouragement, those who need reassurance, those who just need to know that they're not alone, we can make such a huge difference. And it is literally, without exaggeration, life-giving and life-saving. Because the last thing you want to do is weaken your immune system with anxiety or with negativity, pessimism, or just giving up. So if you know somebody who is possibly thinking those thoughts, you can make a life-saving difference just by calling, by talking, by saying, by showing an interest. So listen to what Mordechai says to Esther. He tells Esther to go to the king. Esther says, I could get killed. So Mordechai needs to convince her, to inspire her, to encourage her, to risk her life. And we all assumed, like forever, that he was telling her that she must risk her life to save Am Yisrael, Klal Yisrael. The entire Jewish nation is in danger, and you're going to hide in the palace? How could you do that? So even if it takes Mesiras Nefesh, even if you have to risk your life to save the Jewish people, of course. But then, surprise, surprise, Mordechai actually says to Esther, I'm really not worried about the Jewish people. Netzach Yisrael le Yeshaker, Jews are here forever. Don't you even think that you're saving the Jewish people. You're not. Because if you don't, somebody else will. There's no question, not a shadow of a doubt. Jews will survive and Jews will be forever. But your contribution, the reason you became queen and have been sitting there for 10 years miserably, this might justify that whole thing. So if you miss this opportunity, you're messing up 10 years of your experience, of your mission. Now is the time to give your life the crowning touch that it is meant to have. So everybody has their personal mission. There's somebody you need to help. There is one person, or at least one person, who you are destined to assist, to bless, to save. One. But that is the mission. You are here for 30, 40, 50 years of life so that now, on this occasion, you can do something magnificent. So even though we're not saving the world, we're not saving the planet, we're not saving Klal Yisrael, Esther was told that she should have Mesiras Nefesh, risk her life if necessary, to fulfill the particular personal mission for which her soul came down into her body, and her body was forced to live in the palace with Achashverosh. All for what? For this moment. That's how we have to see this challenge. Now, before the coming of Mashiach, we all have to complete our mission. And this might be the moment that explains and justifies and makes it all worthwhile. All the years that led up to this, all the experiences that you bring to this, all the sensitivities that you've acquired through life, so that you can respond to this. We should see this as the crowning glory of our whole existence. Each of us individually. There is somebody out there who really needs you. Not Klal Yisrael, somebody. And they're not on the other side of the ocean necessarily. They could be right there by your side, and you've not paid attention. You haven't looked, you haven't noticed how they need you. If we notice it now and do what we can, we will perfect the world, because after all these years, all it needs is the finishing touch. So let's not lose this opportunity. Look around. Look around. Who needs you? That might be the very reason that you are who you are, where you are, and why you are. Is that exciting? That's exciting. That is exciting. We're not being asked to martyr ourselves. We're not being asked to do heroic things. Just fulfill the purpose for which your soul came to earth. And that purpose is a little goodness, a little godliness. Because if we all produce a little godliness, the whole world becomes godly. So it's been a pleasure and a privilege to talk to you. I'm absolutely certain and confident that the world is becoming godly by the second, and today we see it in some very dramatic way. So, Akasha and Freilich and Pesach, we have broken through the bonds of our Mitzrayim, of our contemporary Mitzrayim. We are now free to be as good as we know we should be. So let's prepare for Pesach in a good mood. It feels a little like drudgery, but it's really an incredible freedom, a freedom of the soul. Thank you again. Good night.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Friedman. Thank you everybody for participating and for listening. Before we go, we do want to remind everybody that we have many different products that could be helpful to you during these weeks of quarantine. We have Rabbi Friedman's books, Rabbi Friedman's podcasts. We have our newest item, which is a USB filled with hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of Rabbi Friedman's lectures that will go a long way in calming your fears and keeping everybody in the right mindset. We also want to mention that we are now currently in our yearly raffle to support the work of Rabbi Friedman. So we'd like kindly ask everybody to go to itsgoodtoknow.org and please participate as much as you can. As you can imagine, just like everybody's hurting, we're hurting as well. And although things will get better, but with your help, they'll get better even sooner. So we'd like to thank you in advance, and We should only hear good news. Everyone should sei gesund and a kosher and freilich and Pesach. And we will be doing this once again shortly, and we will keep you notified. Thank you very much, and a gute Nacht.